Reading from the Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 2, Chapter 7, Text 32. Gope make patihate vraja viplavaya Deve bivashati pasun kripaya rirakshu Dato chilindram iva sapta dinani sapta Varsho mahidram anugai kakare salilam Gopai by the cowherd men Make in offering a sacrifice to the King of Heaven Pratihate being hampered Vraja Viplavaya for devastating the whole existence of Vrajabhumi, the land of Krishna's pastimes. Deve by the King of Heaven Abhivarshati having poured down heavy rain. Pasun the animals. Kripaya by causeless mercy upon them. Rirakshu desire to protect them. Dharta held up. Uchilindram uprooted as an umbrella. Eva exactly like that. Sapta dinani continuously for 7 days. Sapta varsha although he was only 7 years old. Mahidram the Govardhan hill. Anaga without being tired. Ekakare in one hand only. Salilam playfully. Translation: when the cowherd men of Vrindavan under instruction of Krishna stopped offering sacrifice to the heavenly King Indra, the whole tract of land known as Braja was threatened with being washed away by constant heavy rains for 7 days. Lord Krishna, out of his causeless mercy upon the inhabitants of Braja, held up the hill known as Govardhan with one hand only, although he was only 7 years old. He did this to protect the animals from the onslaught of water. Purport. Children play with an umbrella, generally known as a frog's umbrella, and Lord Krishna, when he was only 7 years old, could snatch the great hill known as the Govardhan Parvata at Vrindavan and hold it for 7 days continuously with one hand, just to protect the animals and the inhabitants of Vrindavan from the wrath of Indra, the heavenly king, who had been denied sacrificial offerings by the inhabitants of Brajabhumi. Factually, there is no need of offering sacrifices to the demigods for their services if one is engaged in the service of the Supreme Lord. Sacrifices recommended in the Vedic literature for satisfaction of the demigods are a sort of inducement to the sacrifices to realize the existence of higher authorities. The demigods are engaged by the Lord as controlling deities of material affairs, and according to the Bhagavad Gita, when a demigod is worshipped, the process is accepted as the indirect method for worshipping the Supreme Lord. But when the Supreme Lord is worshipped directly, there is no need of worshipping the demigods or offering them sacrifices as recommended in particular circumstances. Lord Krishna therefore advised the inhabitants of Brajabhumi not to offer any sacrifices to the heavenly King Indra, but Indra, not knowing Lord Krishna in Brajabhumi, was angry at the inhabitants of Brajabhumi and tried to avenge the offence. But competent as the Lord was, he saved the inhabitants and animals of Brajabhumi by his personal energy, and proved definitely that anyone directly engaged as a devotee of the Supreme Lord need not satisfy any other demigods, however great, even to the level of Brahma or Shiva. Thus, this incident definitely proved without a doubt that Lord Krishna is the personality of Godhead, and that he was so in all circumstances, as a child on the lap of his mother, as a boy 7 years old, as an old man of 125 years of age. In either case, he was never on the level of the ordinary man, and even in his advanced age he appeared a young boy, 16 years old. These are the particular features of the transcendental body of the Lord. Hare Krishna. So continuing on with the different incarnations, and of course we just had the Govardhana Puja on Saturday, the Govardhana Puja annual celebration, where this story was told. Of course, Alamnath told the story in the morning, and then Ayambika Devi Dasi told some story, and I also told some stories there at the Parikram path at Govardhan Hill. We've got our Govardhan Hill there. So very wonderful stories, and here, at the end here, of course, Prabhupada mentions that Krishna is the Supreme Lord, whether he is just a baby, as a child on the lap of his mother, as some boy 7 years old, or whether at 125 years of age. Krishna stayed within this world for 125 years. Last remaining portion was Dwarka, and then before that Mathura, and then of course that in Brajbhumi. But even at 125, he just looked like a youth. Navajovana. Navajovana means eternal youth. 16 years of age. This 16 years of age is considered, especially both men and women, at 16. I remember the old saying, sweet 16, right? Sweet 16. Sweet 16. So 16 is considered when the body is the most beautiful. The young girl, perhaps the boy a little bit older, but the young girls at 16, they're the most beautiful. 16 to 20. Lord Krishna just looks like 16 years old. So the most handsome age, the girls are the most beautiful. And of course, in Kali Yuga, the people these days, if you're 25 years old, you're considered old. I remember I was at around 20 or 21 or something, and someone had said, "Oh, we're going to a party at such and so-and-so's place, and it's his birthday, and he's 29." We were all going, "God, he's old. 29. He's 29. He's an old man." So everything's relative, of course, but even medically speaking, it is said that after the age of 35, then the body starts to degenerate. So there's the growth period, then the maintenance period, then at 35, then just medically speaking, the start of generally around that age, the generation of the body and old age comes in, and everything is lost. As far as beauty, as far as handsomeness. But Krishna always remains Navajovana, eternally youthful. He is an eternal body. So he saved the inhabitants. So this was the fault of Indra. Indra didn't recognize that little boy Krishna was actually the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And he very much overreacted like anything. Imagine how many pujas Indra receives all the time. All the devas are getting so many pujas and so much worship. And Indra, the king of the heaven, he gets so many pujas, so many sacrifices, all the time by all sorts of people. Of course, these demigods have got the perception to know exactly what's going on, even though they're far away in the heavenly planets. And so he knew, but then again his reaction, we heard, he sent the Samvartaka clouds, the clouds at the time of the Pralaya, the destruction, and those clouds are meant to fill up the universe and flood the universe. First of all, this is described in the third canon of the Bhagavatam. First of all, the sun becomes hot, there fire emanates from Anantasesha. When there's destruction, there's creation and then there's destruction. It goes in the cycles. This is the nature of the universe. So there's partial, and then there's more full, and then there's the total. So the description is there that first the sun becomes more hot, the fire comes from another. Lord Shiva with his third eye opens, the fire comes from his eye, and everything is burnt to ash. And then this flood comes down, everything is flooded out. So those Sambataka clouds, especially in the partial annihilation, they come and they pour down. And we were just talking yesterday during Prasadam, that the description is there that the rain came down, one drop was the size of an elephant. That's how much water was coming. And of course we read also that the water was coming down like columns of water were coming down. So as I said on Saturday over there, just around here we have a lot of storms and we have heavy rains. We all know, and then there's lightning, the sun is quite scary. It becomes dark, wind comes up. And this is just like storms from time to time. I haven't been in a cyclone or a hurricane or anything like that. But that's another level altogether. But some Bhataka clouds accompanied by wind and lightning, because Indra came. It was a beautiful... on Saturday we had the clouds, we had Indra riding on Airavata, and the lights were there, and he was throwing his thunderbolt, the lightning. That's his weapon, supreme weapon. No one can withstand the lightning when thrown. And so of course, we read that little Krishna took everyone under Govardhan Hill, held the hill, and then when Indra was throwing the lightning, he paralyzed his arm, he paralyzed the lightning. And at that point Indra had an idea, this is not an ordinary person here, no one can withstand my thunderbolt. He was thunderstruck. Prabhupada uses that word in Krishna book when he described this incident. Indra was thunderstruck. So he paralyzed, and of course Krishna had sent Sudarshan Chakra to be on top of Govardhan Hill, and then he asked Anantasesha to coil around the base of Govardhan Hill to stop the floodwaters coming in, and then the Sudarshan Chakra was drying up the water even before it fell. But what wasn't there was caught by Anantasesha. So this is a wonderful Leela and told. But here, as Alanath Prabhu was saying in his class, that there are many reasons why Krishna performed this pastime. Of course, he wanted to give pleasure to his devotees, and he has to make some, not has to, but when he comes to the world, this Naimitika Leela. Naimitika Leela means occasional pastimes where the Asuras come or there's some disturbance. Of course, Indra is not an Asura. Actually, he got special attention from Krishna, so that in itself shows that he's a special person. Just like last week I told about Kaliya. Kaliya, and when Kaliya's wives, the Nagapatnis, were offering prayers, they said that they're more or less the same thing, that our husband is very special. He had the opportunity to wrap Krishna in his coils. So what type of special person is that? And not only that, Krishna danced on his hoods. Krishna to be killed. We know that Bhishma Dev, on the battle of Kurukshetra, he forced Krishna to come after him, and he prayed that he wanted to see that, and he thought that when Krishna's coming with the wheel of the chariot, he longed to see that. He wanted to be killed by Krishna. This is a very special thing. Krishna doesn't kill everybody. That is already done by the material nature in so many ways. Krishna doesn't have to do all those things. So if someone is, whether Asura, as I said, Indra is not Asura, he is demigod. He is actually a great devotee. But momentarily, and of course there may be some Yoga Maya is there, momentarily he became so angry that his reaction was so much that actually these Sambhataka cloud meant to destroy the universe, and his lightning, everything like that. So he wanted to actually kill. He wanted to kill the inhabitants of Braja. He wanted to kill them just because they didn't do the puja. Just imagine if we did that round here. Well, you didn't turn up for your puja, that's it. Everyone, let's kill him. Didn't turn up for your offering, that's it, you're dead. Just imagine if we did like that round here. Head Pujari will run out of people to kill. But Indra, that was his intention. That was his intention. So, of course, now Prabhupada explains here that these puja, these yagyas, all these rituals for worshipping the devas are necessary only when one is not worshipping the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Devashi bhutaptaninam pittinam nakinkaranayam rinichara jansa vatmanaya saran sananyam gato mukundam parityuchakaratam. This is a verse from the Bhagavatam. O King, one who has given up the material duties and has taken full shelter of the lotus feet of Mukunda, who offers shelter to all, is not indebted to the demigods, great sages, ordinary living beings, relatives, friends, mankind, or even one's forefathers who have passed away. Since all such classes of living entities are part and parcel of the Supreme Lord, one who is surrendered to the Lord's service has no need to serve such persons separately. Very famous verse from Bhagavatam that Srila Prabhupada would quite often. The philosophy, the logic and the philosophy, because everyone, all such classes of these living entities, it is said that when one comes in the world, they're indebted. You're indebted to your mother and father for bringing you into this world. You're indebted to the family, the ancestors from the people in the past who have done so many things to make a nice society where you can live. You're born, there are roads, there are buildings, there's water, and all these things are already here. You didn't have to do anything. The pioneers, when they went out to somewhere, there was nothing there. And then they had to make everything. But your forefathers did all that. So you're born and you've got it all. And you just live. So therefore there's some indebtedness to them. There's indebted to the parents, to the devas. They provide the rain, the sun, the wind, the necessities, the crops that grow. So actually we're indebted to so many. The friends, your friends do things for you. Relatives do things for you. When you have your birthday parties, your relatives bring presents. Bring all sorts of things, and they look after you. Mankind in general here, it is said, but all these such classes are part and parcel of the Supreme Lord. So this is the philosophy. They're all part and parcel of the Lord, all serving the Lord. So when one also serves the Lord, then all these parts and parcels are automatically satisfied, because they're also parts and parcels. You're part and parcel, they're parts and parcels. So you serve. So if one is serving the Supreme Personality of Godhead, then one is not obligated. But when one is not serving the Supreme Personality of Godhead, then one has these obligations. And if one doesn't fulfill these obligations, then one has to suffer the karma, has to get reactions. You didn't fulfill your obligations to your parents. They looked after you when you were young. I remember that just before I became a full-time devotee, my father had died away from a heart attack. And so, all the relatives, there's a big gathering and everything like that. And so, my uncles and aunties were, well, now you're the man of the family now, you have to stay home and look after your mother. And I was just ready to move into the temple. And so, so I went and asked the devotees, what about this? And they actually quoted this verse. So I had to go back and tell my mother and grandmother and all the relatives, well, sorry, I have to. There's a greater cause I have to fulfill, and God looks after all, and by doing this, actually, I am helping you. And of course, they kind of understood, sort of. Anyway, so I became a devotee. But it is said that if one serves the Lord, then automatically all these different classes of living entities are taken care of. The one doesn't have to worry about it. But if you're not, then you do. Then you do. And we see the people in general in the Kali Yuga, especially in the Western countries, they don't have any idea of this type of thing. Looking after even looking after the parents these days. The young, the children, they just go off. It's still in Asia, in India, a strong culture is there that, the parents brought you up, and then in their old age, you're married now, and generally, quite often we see the parents come to your house, especially if you're the elder son or something like that. Generally it goes to the eldest son, that they will look after the mother and the father. We had Prabhupada, he looked after his father. Of course, I think the mother passed away. Right? Yeah. So he was looking after. So that was the tradition. But in the Western countries, it's not like that. It's considered a great imposition. The children are just waiting till they die, and because they're waiting for the inheritance. Quite often it's like that, isn't it? Or they're looking to, if they're sick or something like that, they take them in. But no, they want to put them in the old age home or something. Of course, if one needs professional help, that's another thing. But as far as looking after them, so this mood is not there, but it is said that one needs to do those sort of things. You have to fulfill your obligations. And to the demigods, doing the puja, doing the yajna, doing all these things, you have to do like that. To the ancestors, Shraddha, the different ceremonies for the ancestors. An obligation to them, and also to help them whatever their situation is. So, but Prabhupada explains here very nicely that all these ceremonies and rituals that are very much there in the Vedic literatures are there as a type of inducement to to have people accept higher authority. This is a very important point. Accept higher authority. Now in Kali Yuga, people don't like to do that, especially in the mode of ignorance. And in the mode of passion, it's more you accept authority if it's something in it for you, and if there's nothing in it for you, you don't want to know about it. And the mode of ignorance people, they just don't want to accept authority at all. Who the heck are you? Who do you think you are? Telling me what to do. Of course, such people generally, they don't like to get told to do anything, but they don't mind telling everybody else what to do. Generally we see like that. It's very much a common symptom of the mode of ignorance, that the people in the mode of ignorance, they don't want any authority, but they want to be the authority. So they generally dish out, but they can't take. No, you're trying to do something to me? But you So they like to give it out. What we say in the West, we say they like to dish it out, but they cannot take it very well. So that's mode of ignorance people. And as I said, the mode of passion, they kind of opportunistic. I mean, if it's good for them, if they get something out, they're very good. You're so nice. You're my brother. Can you give me a loan of some money? They want something. Mode of goodness is more acceptance of more acceptance of the authority. Follow the guidance of those who are experts. That's more mode of goodness. But anyway, so at least those who are got some mode of goodness to them, they're encouraged by the Vedic Shastras to do some worship and accept higher authority. Accept higher authority. But actually, Krishna, and Prabhupada refers to the Bhagavad Gita. In the 7th chapter, there's a few verses there. Kamaistaste uritagin, sataya saraya yuktam tasyaradhanamiyate labate chatarakamam maivavi tanitam. So these benedictions that, some are doing the pujas to this demigod, that god, the other, and they're wanting something. By doing the pujas, they want to get the blessings, they want to get some money, they want to get so many things. And so they're doing these pujas, but actually Krishna says, really all these things, they are my parts and parcels, they are my agents, they have been given a certain position, but actually these things are bestowed by me to them to give to you. And Prabhupada refers to this in Bhagavad Gita. He says in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says like that. He says, first of all, those who worship the demigods, they've got the material desires. But even to worship the demigods, he says, yo yam yam tanum bhakta sari uchidamichadi. He says that actually even when someone desires to worship and do them, I from within, I as the super soul make their faith steady so they can do that. From within them, I make their faith steady. And then of course, actually they're all these benefits are really bestowed by me. So Prabhupada emphasizes this, that there's no need, so as Alamnath explained, quoting from the Bhagavatam, that there were many reasons why Krishna performed the lifting of the Govardhan hill. And one of them was to please the devotees, another one was that to show that actually these demigod worship is not really necessary, another one was of course that he detected some pride in Indra, that he was getting a little bit proud, and he wanted to humble him because he's concerned for his devotees. Indra is a devotee, and he's concerned that someone is becoming puffed up, devotee, he's going to commit offences, and just like Indra committed a great offence. And he was so fearful of his offence that we know he went to Lord Brahma, what should I do? I mean, Krishna, look what I've done. And, and this is the sign of a devotee. They do something wrong, they don't feel good about that. What can they do to counteract that, what they've done wrong? And then Prabhupada always encouraged us to be like that. What are you going to do about it? You do something wrong. I always remember that story with Satsarup Maharaj, where Prabhupada dictated a letter, and then it was a very important letter, and then Satsarup Maharaj was supposed to send it off, but he said that there was something he had to include in there as an extra part to explain what the letter was really referring to. And so Prabhupada asked Satsarup Maharaj, did you send the letter? Yes, Prabhupada. Did you include that extra document? Oh, I forgot, Prabhupada. So Prabhupada kept looking at him. So? I'll write another letter and, explaining what, that I forgot, and I put it in, and then I'll say, very good, do that. So Prabhupada wasn't happy that he just... And I remember another time in Melbourne too, Prabhupada came to Burnett Street, he gave a Bhagavatam class, and then he was sitting there and he said, where's my glasses? So Satsarup Maharaj at that time was his servant. And, I forgot them back at the house, Prabhupada. So? I'm sorry, Prabhupada. So, I'll get someone to go back immediately and get them. Very good, do that. All right, sorry, but what are you going to do about it? Not that you keep doing it all the time. That's a very shallow sorry. Oh, I'm sorry, and then you do it again, and you do it again. I'm sorry, do it again. Sorry, sorry. It's like that. Of course, I'm just using an extreme example, but you can hit someone. I'm sorry, hit him again. Sorry. That means you're not actually sorry. Anyway, the long story. I was telling a little bit about a very wonderful, and I think I was reading a little bit when I was giving the lectures there on Govardhana Puja Day, how Govardhan appeared in this world. Govardhan is such a special, and all the inhabitants of Govardhan, now there's different levels of entities, and this is explained here in the Garga Samhita, that in the Goloka Vrindavan, in the spiritual world, there are the cowherd boys, the cowherd girls, the cows, even the grass, and it's explained here. First of all, Narad Muni starts off and he says, Giriraj Vibhutim Cha Yam Shrunoti Narotamam Sagachit Dhamma Paramam Golokam Yogi Durlabam. One who hears about the glories and opulences of Govardhan Hill becomes the best of persons and goes to Goloka. the supreme abode, which even the greatest yogis cannot attain. Then he's talking, Narad Muni's talking to King Baulashva. And King Baulashva says, Aho Govardhana Shakshat Girira Johari Priya Tat Samanam Tatirtam Hi Vidyate Bhutale Divi. Govardhan Hill is dear to Lord Hari. It is the king of mountains. No holy place in the earthly or heavenly planets is equal to it. Govardhan Hill. So I was telling a little bit about, now just one thing, before I just reiterate a little bit about the story of how Govardhan came about in Goloka Vrindavan, came from the heart and chest of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. But not only that, but all the whole of Braja came from the personal body of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Originally, he desired to expand. It's told like that. Narad Muni tells, Krishna desired to expand, and so he expanded. Radharani, he expanded as the Dham. He expanded. So there is some level of in Goloka Vrindavan. There are some the coward boy, of course, Srimati Radharani, the gopis, the coward boys, even the Dham. They are not Jiva Tattva. They are not Jiva Tattva. They're like the expansion directly from Krishna. So one can, if they're very fortunate, by the mercy, it is said actually, one needs the mercy of one of the inhabitants of Braja to be able to go there. And someone asked me that question after the class I gave it on Saturday about the prayer from the Dhammadarashtaka, where number 4. Can we just get that number 4? Where are the sheets? Yeah. I said, he said, I'm just trying to understand this Varam Deva Moksham Na Moksham Vidiva. Although you are able to give all benedictions, I do not pray for you for the boon of impersonal liberation, nor the highest liberation of eternal life in Vaikuntha, nor any other boon which may be obtained by executing the 9 processes of bhakti. O Lord, I simply wish that this form of yours as Bal Gopal in Vrindavan may ever be manifest in my heart. For what is the use of to me of any other boon other than this? So he asked me, what about this, the liberation of the Vaikuntha? Why is this prayer like that? And I said, because it's in the mood of Braja. So in the mood of Braja, Satyavrata is in the mood. He's not interested in Vaikuntha. He's not interested in the processes of bhakti. Whatever result comes from following the process of bhakti, he's really not that interested in it. He's not interested in Vaikuntha, whatever liberation, Salokya, Sarupya, he's not interested in that. All he's interested is, I wish that this form of yours as Balagopal in Vrindavan. That's what I'm interested in. So he was asking, well, I can't understand. So I had to explain, because prayer is in the mood of Braj Leela, and he wants to. So Balagopal. Of course, that doesn't mean, you don't follow the processes of bhakti, the 9 processes, or the Vaikuntha is something not good. It's all good. But there is the position of Braja, which is another position altogether. And the inhabitants there. So I'll just read a little bit from here. The Lord's realm Golok is worshipped by all the worlds. The devotee who goes there never returns to the world of birth and death. The Ganga, which travels through the 3 worlds, was born of the lotus feet of Krishna in Goloka. Comes from the feet of Krishna in Goloka. The Jamuna, the best of rivers, was manifested from Lord Krishna's left shoulder. The splendid rasa dance circle made of gold and jewels, where Krishna and the gopis dance, that manifested from Lord Krishna's ankles. All the courtyards, pavilions, peacocks, cooing cuckoos, the forest groves, the lakes, manifested from Lord Krishna's legs. The Vrindavan forest was manifested from Lord Krishna's knees. Leela Sarovar was manifested from his thighs, and so on. You get the idea. the vines filled with different birds, the buzzing bees, the flowers and the fruits, the many lotus flowers that shone very splendidly were all manifested. The lotus flowers were manifested from the Lord's navel. So we see all the aspects of Braja manifest from the different bodily parts of the Supreme Lord. So they're not ordinary. They're not ordinary living. It is said that a living entity, by the mercy of a resident of Braja, by the mercy of Radharani, by the mercy of Krishna, can go to Goloka Vrindavan. But they are in the Jiva category. But they're perfected living entities, of course. And there's really, in the absolute sense, there is no difference between them and the others. But there is a difference also. They're not jivas, they are something else, but we're jivas. So, as I said the other day, the Govardhan Hill, it was born when Radharani, Govardhan came about by the desire of Radharani. That she said to Krishna, can you manifest a very nice area with so many different aspects to it so we can enjoy our rasa dance even more. So Krishna looked at his chest, looked within his heart, and a combined form of water and fire came out and came on the ground and just grew into a huge hill and got bigger and bigger, some incredible dimensions that were beyond our conception, like 800,000 miles wide and billions of miles high and billions of miles long, and it kept growing and growing and growing, and it started to take over everywhere. So Krishna stood up and gave him a slap, said, you're taking over the whole realm here. Stop growing. So so that was how Govardhan came about also. So he's not ordinary as well. But one interesting, just to finally finish this, interesting story that who was telling, Narad Muni again was telling of one Brahmana who came to Govardhan, to Braja, and he went to Govardhan, and he was very pious, very elevated soul, and he took the permission of the residents there and took a Govardhan Shila, and he left the realm of Braja, and then when he left he saw this big monstrous demon coming towards him. 3 heads, 3 chests, all these arms, big long tongue, big fangs coming out and wanting to eat him. So he was like, ugh, and they're coming closer and closer. He just jumped on him, and then he didn't know, and he had the Govardhan Shila, and he just went with the Govardhan Shila, bang! The Govardhan Shila, all of a sudden, that monster just fell down dead. And he trained out from that body came this very illustrious personality. Very handsome, very beautiful, very effulgent, and the Brahmana was very surprised, very amazed to see such a wonderful looking, come out of the monster's body, and so that personality offered many prayers to that Brahmana. You are I've been saved by your mercy and by the mercy of Govardhan. It was this Govardhan Shila that ended my body. And he praised Govardhan, and then the Brahmana, I think his name was Vijay. This Brahmana, his name was Vijay, and then he said, well, how did this all come about? Then he told his story. I was a son of a rich Vaishya, rich merchant, and I had a lot of money, but then I got addicted to gambling. I used to drink a lot and got addicted to gambling. I owed so much money, so I was going crazy, and I poisoned my parents, killed them, and took all the money. I killed my parents, and then not only that, but then I also killed my wife. Just left her there. Then I went off with some prostitute and just fled the area, went to the south, and then I was living with a prostitute, but I ended up throwing her in a well, and I threw her in a well and just left her to die down there. And not only that, but then I started running because I was still addicted to gambling. I lost a lot more money, and I started robbing people. And I killed hundreds of people, he said. Hundreds of people. Because then one time I was going and the snake came and bit me and I died. And then the Yamadutas came for me. The Yamadutas came and took me and then threw me in all these different hells. And I had to be punished for a long time in so many different hells. Then finally I came back, and I came back as, what did he come back? He came back as a pig. He came back as a pig. I think he said, I had 10 lives as a pig. Then I had like 5 lives as a tiger. Then I had another 20 lives as a camel. And I was treated very badly. I was killed so many times in those bodies. I came back in all sorts of bodies and I was killed over and over again. Then finally I came during the Krishna Leela, and I came as a thief, and I went to the Braj area wanting to steal. And then all the cowherd boys beat me with their sticks and I ran away. Then I died. Then I came back in that monster body in the desert. I came back in the monster, but now I've been freed. And by the mercy of you and by the mercy of the Govardhan. I got you slapped me with a Govardhan shield. And just at that time, a Vaikuntha Vimana came from the spiritual realm, and it was so effulgent, and then he got on that Vaikuntha Vimana, and the Brahmana Vijay was very, very amazing. He offered his obeisance to the Vimana, and of course the Vishnu Dutas were there, and they took that personality. I don't think it gave his name, but it took that personality back home, back to Godhead. All the mercy of Govardhan. Giri Govardhana ki jai, Sri Krishna Bhagavan ki jai, Go Premanandi. Maybe we'll take one question. Yeah, we're running out of time, sorry about that. Many stories to tell.
Special jivas emanate from Krishna's body. Where do we come from Krishna's body?
Well, we're also expansion from Krishna's body. I mean, everything comes from Krishna. So we're different energy. There's the Jiva Tattva, there's Vishnu Tattva, there's a Shakti Tattva. Radharani has her own energy. It's called Shakti Tattva. She's Shakti Tattva. And then there's Vishnu Tattva. And then we are Jiva Tattva. So all different energies come from Krishna. So we are part of that energy, but it's a more subordinate energy. In other words, the other energies are the higher energy, higher level. They are higher level, like Radharani. She's a higher level. She's not exactly Vishnu Tattva. She's Shakti Tattva, but middle level is like Krishna. But she has her own Tattva. And actually mentioned there in the Garga Samhita that all the gopis were expanded from the hairs of the body of Radharani. So from that side, all the gopis came from Radharani, from the hairs of her body. She expanded all the gopis actually. So this is explained there. So all different energies and all levels of energy, and some are considered superior, some are considered inferior, although spiritually speaking it's all absolute, but there are differences simultaneously. Alright, thank you very much. Hare Krishna. Jai Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Go Premanandi. Hari Hari Bol.